Welcome, the Dweller of the Dark.
We are a channel honoring the yellowed and blackened bones of many prominent authors. We will be digging up several obscure, strange, and forgotten authors who influenced many of the great horror, science fiction, and fantasy writers today. Comment if you have an author you'd like to raise from the dead. Crank up the chainsaw and shred the like button to pieces if a tale rips out your beating heart. Hideous beast, join our Legion of Ghouls and subscribe for more tales of the horrifying, obscure, strange, and forgotten. Our collection continues to climb out of the tombs. Merchandise and swag coming soon. Unknown horror masters, send us ghoulish delights for the Skull and Bones collection. Your pound of writer's flesh will be fed to our ravenous crypt of fans. Walk our fiery path and find us on here, our websites, podcast, and Fiverr to raise 7 kinds of hell. Check out our new books on Amazon, podcast, and websites, YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Anchor FM, Spotify, and many more. Dweller of the Dark, a new Kindle Vella story, Curse of the Sea Witch, has been released. Check out our other links and series, Where the Wolf Dwells, The Curious Death of Dionysus Chenault. Our books and ebooks are on Kindle, Amazon, and Vella. Follow, support us on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, Bandcamp. Dweller of the Dark, Children of Horror. Tonight, we travel to ghostly Grand Isle for a series of 3 Kindle Vella episodes from our latest horrific tale. For the first time ever, we bring you Curse of the Sea Witch. Enjoy. Curse of the Sea Witch by Jeffrey LeBlanc. First published in Kindle Vella, March 16th, 2022. Episode 2, The Curse. The gray and emerald waves from the surf roared eternal into the beach as Hawkeye Santney continued mockingly to all present.
Dear Lord,
Swore Hawkeye.
the poor, innocent child has drowned herself. Blisters, such a poor waste of life.
The knuckle-dragging minion, Blisters Petrie, laughed as he was nudged in the ribs by Hawkeye. Then there was a twist of his oily, haggard mouth to stifle a giggle and a gasp. Blisters had loathed Maddie Badeaux since the day she mocked him at the shrimp shack for the fool he was. The Sea Witch coined the named Blisters in front of the town after one of his misadventures with a tainted flower. Seagulls cried above the crowd that had encircled the mother with her dead child. Someone, Nate Thibodeau maybe, could have sworn it was a murder of crows. It seemed that all manner of winged creatures, vulture, bats, and swarms of locusts seemed to hover and swarm around the scene. For sure, it was a preternatural event for the murdered Millie Badeaux. Ethel Theriault would swear later that the creatures seemed to be displaying condolences to Maddie Badeaux for her loss. But all the Sea Witch could do was scream and cry in angst and sorrow. With a stolen glass mug swaying with whiskey, possibly Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, Hawkeye Santney lifted a feigned toast to the corpse swaying on his uncertain, rickety legs. He drunkenly bellowed while many turned away, aghast and in disgust.
May Millie Badeaux's phantom eternally haunt these shores.
Lunatic eyes ablaze, furnace with the fires of hell itself, Maddie Badeaux spoke. Her words were predatory and screeching as an owl's as they broke from Maddie in a scream. This ghastly scream sent an icy sea chill up and down the spines of the crowd.
I bring forth from the hollows of Asmodeus, from the winding labyrinth of Aziel, and from the blackened heart of my master, Lucifer the Lightbringer, a curse upon you and all your heirs, Rubier, Hawkeye, Sanctiny, she screamed. Our Lord above curses you as well. This curse will be with you to all eternity, long after your bones are dust. May your murderous eyes be beholden on sights of terror so profound that they char and scorch the soul of you. May you be granted no respite, no forgiveness, and die so gruesome a death that men will shudder, hearing your name. And in the void, in the darkness, in the dismal shores of the lake of fire, may you, Hawkeye Satan, writhe in hell's flames infinitely. This curse I place on you sails with you by sea and walks with you by land. Hawkeye Satan, it lumbers always with you by cold earth and by frigid air. You shall be stalked by winged demons of the wilds, serpentine wraiths of the swamplands, fanged phantoms of the forest, and the ghouls and goblins of the mountains. And you,
her skeletal fingers stabbed out as a scythe at Blister's Petrie. Her screeching accusation and her maniacal eyes caused Blisters to jump and stagger backwards, his face as white as a funeral pall covered in the shimmer of panicked sweat.
Your hands, Merlot, Blister's Petrie, shall be the death of Rubier Hawkeye Sydney in this world and all other worlds unknown. And Hawkeye, in return, for eternity, shall always be the death of you. By murderous hands, Hawkeye Sydney will gladly go through the doors of hell, and minion, your master shall bring you to the gallows tree of a distant land. For the hideous deed done, I set the seal of death upon your brow, Rubier Hawkeye Sydney. Know a life of true terror, waking every day, breathing every inspired breath, feeling every last beat of your black heart, that you will die in horror far out upon the bluest sea. But unlike the gentle tide that brought my Millie home, the same sea shall reject and toss you to the damned. Hawkeye, your vile carcass will be shunned to the sands, only to be gnawed and chewed by the vile creatures of those same black sands.
Lightning crashed in the distance from a sudden approaching storm. All there would swear the sea witch conjured it.
I, Rubier Hawkeye Sydney,
she spoke again with a viper's venom and unearthly intensity to cause the drunken mockery on the man's face to change to that of swinish ignorance.
Do you hear how the sea roars for your corpse, Hawkeye? A corpse it will not keep. Frost and heavy snows will cover the marshes and fields. When the last frost lifts to fog from the marshes, Hawkeye Sydney, your bloated, rotted corpse will lie at my feet. And in my joy, I shall laugh as you did today. I will make mockery and merry of your demise, and surely I will spit upon your dead body and be content.
On her last words, flashes of lightning arced all around Hawkeye and Blisters. The two cursed men staggered away from Maddie and the townsfolk, walking off to their makeshift homes with the sun at zenith on the morn. Robespierre Hawkeye Santney and Blisters Petrie both looked like two men headed to the gallows. The two drunkards, long shadows following behind as they maneuvered through the brown sands homeward. Ghostly shadows that followed like a sea curse. Gerard Bradbury, with two of his sons, gathered up the remains of Millie Badeaux. His wife Lucille and Ethel Theriot assisted Maddie back into town, expecting Maddie to break down and scream and cry again. The seawitch did not. Reaching town by some time after 10 a.m. with Millie's body, the ice house was organized to house the dead. Being the small island had no morgue, it was the coldest place to keep her fresh. The champagnes of shrimp and bushels of crabs were moved to make place for Millie's body. Once the area was vacated, Millie's corpse was packed in ice, and the men said a few prayers before covering her face in a tarp. With the body secure and a local deputy on watch to prevent any desecration, the town set to organizing the wake and funeral for the poor child. First priority was to give Maddie the best place to stay and best place to grieve alone. The destitute mother had no money, but was treated to the finest furnishings by the town. The best meals were arranged that Maddie Badeaux could not eat. The best room on the island was allotted to her by the mayor, which she refused to stay. Forced by the Grand Isle community, she relented on the latter and was placed alone in the mayor's own house. It was the charitable thing to do, at least, since none had bothered to arrest the murderers. Besides, who could say with certainty that Hawkeye Santney and Blisters Petrie might not sober up and decide to kill Maddie too? The wake the next day was brief, but heartfelt. Maddie pushed back the locks of hair from the frozen Millie. Chilled in ice though, flies had swarmed around mother and daughter as she did this motherly gesture. Onlookers could swear that none of the flies, however, would land on the body. A casket of scrub oak from the island's many trees was cut and split to make a coffin. Workers spent the better part of the night carving and nailing it together. The name, Millie Badeaux, was carved in the lid and on a piece of concrete recovered from a washed-away house from Apple Street. Men dug with purpose well into the morning to prepare the grave, a grave plot donated generously again by the mayor. This would be Millie Badeaux's final place of rest. The funeral was a hastened affair. No one wanted any more of the Hawkeye and Blisters disruption. Quickly, they performed the rites and moved forward to conclusion. It was perplexing and hideous, the mayor and his ilk, with the hurried behavior toward the affair, as if the child had not existed. But their cowardice would have no other course of action. What would it accomplish to not speed up the funeral? What was the alternative, really? Face a prolonged ordeal and risk to rouse the wrath of two men quite capable of getting away with murder? As Alex Prosperi had said in a whispered meeting before the service,
"Let those two murderers sleep off their drunk while we hurry to honor our gentle daughter of the community."
A few brief words by Father Robert Hayes and a beautiful song of Ave Maria by Gladys Bradbury, the town's organist, brought everyone sobbing with tears. No memories by the grieving were allowed, and the mother could not present her fondest memories of her beloved daughter. No story shared, only in finality. Maddie was allowed a moment to say last words to Millie's body before the coffin was closed and lowered.
"Farewell, foolish flower, with a heart too good for this world. Millie, you grew lovely and you grew beautiful, only to be cut down as a ragged weed too soon. I was blessed to have you with me in this world, but alas, daughter, I warned you time immemorial that your kind heart was always going to be your folly and certain doom. How wrong I wish I had been, my stolen treasure."
And with those words, Maddie cried one last tear. Everyone watched as that same tear fell on the face of the iced corpse. Blood-red roses were dropped onto Millie Badeaux's coffin as it was laid to final rest into the shifting sands of Grand Isle. Thank you for listening.
Have a great night.